December 19, 1944. Deep beneath Whitehall, in Britain's war rooms, Winston Churchill stood smoking his cigar, staring at a map of Western Europe. The German army had launched a massive surprise attack through the Ardennes forest. A 50-mile bulge had torn into Allied lines, threatening to split British and American forces in two. Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery had delivered his assessment only moments earlier. A counterattack would take at least 3 weeks. 3 weeks the Allies did not have. Then a telegram arrived from Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force. Churchill read it once. Then again. His military secretary, General Hastings Ismay, noticed something unusual. The Prime Minister's expression changed. Finally, Churchill looked up. "Gentlemen," he said slowly, "General Patton has just promised Eisenhower that he will have 3 divisions attacking north within 48 hours. He paused. Either the man is a military genius, or a magnificent liar. A beat. I suspect both. What followed would become one of the most extraordinary operational maneuvers of the Second World War, and it would force Winston Churchill to rethink everything he believed about modern armored warfare. To understand why Patton's promise sounded insane, you need to understand the scale of what he was proposing. Patton's Third Army was positioned nearly 90 miles south of Bastogne. It was oriented east, pushing toward Germany. Now he was asking permission to disengage from combat, rotate his entire army 90 degrees, and attack north, through snow, ice, and roads barely capable of supporting civilian traffic. This was not a matter of turning a few regiments. Third Army consisted of nearly 250,000 men, 6 divisions, over 130,000 vehicles, and tens of thousands of tons of fuel, ammunition, and supplies. Military doctrine said such a maneuver required weeks of planning. Patton said he could do it in 2 days. At a meeting in Verdun, Eisenhower asked how quickly Bastogne could be relieved. Patton replied without hesitation. 48 hours. Major General John Milliken later wrote in his diary, "I thought the old man had finally lost his mind. The logistics alone would take a week just to calculate." What no one realized was that Patton had already done the math. On December 16th, the very day the German offensive began, Patton called his senior staff together. "The Krauts have stuck their head in a meat grinder," he told them. "All someone has to do is turn the handle. That someone is going to be us." While other commanders were still trying to understand what was happening, Patton was already planning his response. He ordered 3 contingency plans for a rapid turn north. Fuel dumps were quietly repositioned. Logistics officers were warned to prepare for sudden redirection. Corps commanders were told to be ready to move on a moment's notice. So when Eisenhower asked Patton for a timeline, Patton wasn't guessing. He was executing a plan already in motion. By December 20th, British liaison officers reported something remarkable. Third Army's lead elements had already moved more than 30 miles. Intelligence Chief Major General Kenneth Strong sent a message to London. "Third Army is moving faster than our intelligence can track. Road discipline is extraordinary." Churchill's skepticism began to crack. 4 years, Churchill had balanced 2 military philosophies. On one side was Montgomery, methodical, cautious, and deliberate. Overwhelming force. Perfect preparation. Minimal risk. On the other side was Patton, fast, aggressive, and relentlessly forward. Churchill admired speed, but he feared recklessness. On December 21st, he dictated a note to his chiefs of staff. "Whatever one thinks of General Patton's methods, one cannot dispute his results. Third Army has moved further in 2 days than we moved in 2 weeks during Normandy." German headquarters were equally stunned. Radio intercepts showed entire American divisions moving north at speeds German planners believed impossible.
Field Marshal von Rundstedt reportedly remarked,
"Patton doesn't have a strategic reserve. He has only one speed, and one direction." The weather was brutal. Temperatures dropped well below freezing. Snow and ice covered the roads. Visibility collapsed. One American general wrote home, "These are conditions that would make Napoleon's retreat from Moscow look pleasant." Patton was unmoved. "The enemy has the same weather," he told his commanders. The difference is, we're moving. By December 22nd, lead elements of the 4th Armored Division were closing on Bastogne. Inside the town, the 101st Airborne had been surrounded for nearly a week. Ammunition was running low. Medical supplies were gone. When the Germans demanded surrender, the acting commander, General Anthony McAuliffe, replied with a single word: nuts. Courage alone, however, could not hold forever. On December 26, 1944, tanks from the 4th Armored Division smashed through German lines near the village of Eisenhower. At 4:45 p.m., the radio message crackled through headquarters. Contact made with friendly forces in Bastogne. Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams later described the scene. Burned-out vehicles. Exhausted paratroopers. Men who had held on until relief arrived. From Eisenhower's request to relief of Bastogne, it had taken just 7 days. 6 divisions. 90 miles. Winter conditions. Continue combat. Patton had beaten every estimate. Churchill received the news on December 27. Foreign Secretary Anthony Eden recorded the moment. Winston read the telegram and then sat quietly. Most unusual. Finally he said, "We have witnessed something rare, a commander who makes the impossible routine." In private, Churchill went further. He told his physician, Lord Moran, "Patton treats time as ammunition. Every hour delayed is a bullet wasted." For a man who had long defended caution, this was a profound shift. Chief of the Imperial General Staff Alan Brooke dismissed the operation as risky and lucky. Churchill disagreed. To him, speed was the strategy. What impressed Churchill most was not just the fighting, but the logistics. Third Army consumed hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel every day. During the pivot north, supply officers redirected tens of thousands of tons of supplies while the Army was still in contact with the enemy. One of the greatest staff achievements of the war, Churchill later called it. The relief of Bastogne shattered German hopes in the Ardennes. Captured German officers later admitted it was the moment they knew the offensive had failed. Churchill would later confess, "I misjudged Patton. I saw the showmanship and missed the substance." History will remember him as one of the great captains. When Patton died in 1945, Churchill was deeply affected. "A great light has gone out," he said. "Men like Patton do not come often." Bastogne proved a lasting truth. In modern warfare, speed is not recklessness. Speed is power. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more deep dives into history. Like, share, and tell us, what fascinates you most about Patton's audacity?